Number 8. The Ratman of South End. There is a shocking urban legend in Southend-on-Sea, Essex. The story is horrific, so be prepared. It's all about a man, some rats, and a haunting. The legend appeared many years ago in the English city. An elderly homeless man crawled into an underpass seeking shelter from the cold. But the homeless gentleman was then set upon by a group of angry youths. The man was beaten to the brink of death, but he was still alive. Cold and losing blood quickly, he curled up in the overpass and waited for death to take him, or for morning to come. But morning never arrived. Instead, the vermin came. A group of rats came and finished off the job, devouring the homeless man piece by piece. In the years since the homeless man's tragic fate, something unnatural has been spotted in the underpass of Southend-on-Sea. A ghostly figure has been seen by countless witnesses skulking through the area on dark nights. People have heard the squealing of rats mixed with the strange groans of a disgruntled man. The hair-raising sound of scraping can be heard on quiet nights, as if huge claws are scratching the walls. Many believe the noises are made by the Ratman of South End, the vengeful ghost of the man consumed by rats. Nobody has ever been able to capture irrefutable evidence that the Ratman exists, but many believe he's a real spirit of vengeance. They say they've seen him with their own eyes. He's so popular in England that a movie was made about him in 2019. The Ratman even appeared in a comic book in 2020. Number 7. The Wendigo. If there were ever a creature on this plane of existence that the devil was afraid of, it would be the Wendigo. The Wendigo was the most frightening monstrosity whispered of by the Native Americans of the Great Lakes. Along the border of Canada and the US, stories of the Wendigo have been told for centuries, long before the white man came to America's shores. The Wendigo was described as a flesh-eater of the forest. It was a horrific creature with its skin pulled over its scrawny bones. It had a grey complexion like that of death, with its burning red eyes pushed way back into its sockets. The Wendigo looked like a skeleton, but with its flesh hardly hanging on. It was filthy and reeked of decay and corruption. To match its appearance, the Wendigo was horribly, horribly evil. And although the description did vary slightly between various cultures, it always had one aspect the same. The Wendigo feasted on human flesh. The Algonquin believed in the Wendigo. So did the Cree, Naskapi, Innu, and Saulteaux. The Algonquin described it as a giant with a heart of pure ice. The Ojibwa described the Wendigo as the size of a tree with a lipless mouth and sharp teeth. It would eat any man, woman, or child who strayed into its part of the forest. The Native Americans also gave a very specific reason for how the Wendigo was created. It's important to note here, there was never just one Wendigo. There could be many. It was believed that whenever a human became so hungry that they resorted to cannibalism to survive, the terribleness of the deed could transform them into a Wendigo. But it was also possible to create one through the use of dark magic. As the Native American tribes of the Great Lakes were gradually subverted into Canadian and American society, many of their stories were lost. But in 1907, Algernon Blackwood published a short story called The Wendigo that ensured the creature would never be forgotten. It was around that same time that a member of the Cree tribe in Ontario started talking about how he killed Wendigos. His name was Jack Fiddler, and he was an insane murderer. Jack told his Methodist minister that he knew the secret to destroying the Wendigo. In fact, Jack claimed he had already killed 14 of the bloodthirsty monsters during his lifetime. He admitted to the minister that he believed himself to be saving his community by killing people before they turned into a Wendigo. This bizarre admission of guilt led to Jack Fiddler and his brother Joseph being arrested for murdering an innocent woman. Jack believed she was about to turn into a Wendigo, and it was his duty to slay her first. And now for number 6. But first, it's shout-out time. I wanted to give a big thank you to RichRaz2653 for supporting this channel. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already for more videos like this. Number 6. The Beast of Busco. In the town of Churubusco, Indiana, there was once a gigantic turtle monster. In 1948, a mythical creature surprised the town and sent the people into a frenzied panic. A pair of fishermen were trying to catch fish in Falk Lake when they witnessed an enormous snapping turtle. The turtle was bigger than their boat, over 10 feet in diameter, with a head the size of a human kid. The turtle was estimated to weigh upwards of 500 pounds. Locals called the creature Oscar, naming it after the owner of the lake from the 19th century, Oscar Falk. Oscar allegedly saw something similar, a huge reptilian beast, in 1898. After the initial sighting, the owner of the property also saw the creature. Word of the gigantic snapping turtle spread through the neighborhood, then to neighboring towns. Soon enough, national news networks were calling it the Beast of Busco. Everyone in the country was talking about the mutant turtle skulking in Falk Lake. Then came the hunt. There were so many cars driving into the small town of Churubusco that it was causing traffic jams. Planes were flying overhead as people tried desperately to locate the mysterious reptile. Divers descended into the dark depths of the lake. They had traps and hooks, but it just wasn't any good. Nobody could catch the elusive beast. Even when the owner of the property began to drain the lake, there was no sign of it. To this day, the turtle has never made a reappearance. It's been over 50 years, and Churubusco still calls itself Turtle Town, USA. When you enter the town from US 33, there's a gigantic 15-foot green tortoise staring at you. Number 5. The Bat Squatch. The Bat Squatch is a ridiculous creature most people have likely never heard of before. It is exactly what it sounds like, a mixture between a gigantic bat and a Sasquatch. The creature is said to live somewhere around Mount St. Helens in the northwest. Rumor has it that the Bat Squatch emerged from Mount St. Helens when it erupted in 1980. Others think it's a creature straight from hell. Some say it's an alien. Others believe it's a missing link the government is trying to cover up. The legend of the Bat Squatch started in 1994. Washington teenager Brian Canfield was driving his pickup one night when the creature suddenly appeared in the rearview mirror. It had blue fur, disgusting bat wings, and yellow eyes. Only it was the size of a Sasquatch. Brian claimed the creature stared at him, then flew away without causing any trouble. A reporter from the Tacoma Tribune interviewed Brian after his sighting went public in the 1990s. The reporter seemed to feel that Brian was authentic. He couldn't say for sure whether Brian witnessed a winged Bigfoot, but he did seem to believe that whatever he saw existed. In a more recent interview with Brian's mother, Sandra Canfield, she revealed a bit about her son's feelings on the subject. She said Brian moved away after the incident. He doesn't like to talk about the Bat Squatch anymore. Brian developed a bit of PTSD after seeing the creature. That's how terrifying the Bat Squatch is. Number 4. The Vampires of Europe. How real do you think vampires are? It seems like a silly question until you look at the facts. In the past 20 years, archaeologists in Bulgaria have unearthed the remains of about 100 vampire graves. They excavated the remains of mysterious people who had metal rods driven through their chests, as if someone had put a stake through their heart. Historians say it was a precaution taken by medieval villagers to prevent vampires from rising out of their graves. Was this superstition, or based on a real scourge of devilish fiends? In 1732, Austrian medical expert Johannes Fluckinger documented his investigation into the crimes of a man named Arnold Paul. Arnold supposedly clawed his way out of the grave and killed a dozen people. He was only stopped after having a stake driven through his heart. According to Johannes, Arnold groaned and bled after he was stabbed. That proved that his body was still alive. But in the end, he was never able to confirm that Arnold had risen from the grave prior to his killing spree. Many people believe there was a time in medieval Europe in which people were rising from the dead. Vampire graves haven't just been found in Bulgaria. They've also been located in Poland too. Eastern Europe was the epicenter of vampire activity. There are still villages in Romania where people participate in anti-vampire rituals. In 2003, a man died in a farming accident and then came back as a restless spirit. The dead man's spirit sucked the life force from his family members. At least, that was what his family thought. 6 villagers dug up his corpse and put a stake through his heart. Only after did the sick family members recover. Number 3. Sky serpents. Tales of serpents in the sky have been around since the early medieval days. The first known sighting of a sky serpent can be traced to 793 AD, detailed in a chronicle of the Anglo-Saxons. The chronicle speaks of flashes of lightning and fiery dragons slithering through the clouds. Soon after the sky serpents were seen in Sussex, a terrible famine descended on the British Isles. Another sighting was recorded in April 1388. A dragon was seen in the sky across Europe. On December 5, 1762, a twisting serpent was reported in the clouds above Devonshire, England. Locals watched it for a full 6 minutes. In the middle of the 1800s, settlers in Nebraska often reported flying serpents. According to historian Mari Sandoz, stories of sky serpents were extremely popular in the 1850s. There was one particularly famous tale in which a flying serpent was spotted by the passengers of a steamboat moving down the Missouri River. Those who saw it described the creature as an undulating serpent, twisting in and out of the clouds as it breathed fire and lightning streaked the sky. In June 1873, farmers near the Texan town of Bonham witnessed an enormous serpent hiding within a cloud. Those who saw it said it was a yellow color with stripes about the size of a telegraph pole. They could see the snake coil and turn over, maneuvering just like any other snake. It moved in an easterly direction, was spotted by people miles away in Honey Grove, then it vanished. There are countless stories from around the world of people seeing snakes in the sky. The New York Times even published an article about it on May 27, 1888. A trio of sisters from South Carolina were walking through the woods when they saw a serpent slithering above the treetops. They described the creature as about 15 feet long, moving with the speed of a hawk. The New York Times noted that other residents in the area witnessed the same thing on the same day. People who had no relation to one another all saw the same snake in the sky. What do you think could be the explanation for sky serpents? Is it nothing but a weird coincidence? Or do you think these could be real creatures that science can't even begin to explain? Let me know in the comments and hit subscribe while you're at it. Number 2. The Shell Monster. In Iceland, they call it the Skeljaskrimsli. The name translates to English as shell monster. It's a reference to an Icelandic creature that has been spotted on the shores of the island for centuries. Ever since the days of the Vikings, the people of Iceland have seen multiple shell monsters scuttling around on their beaches. Shell monsters are described as being covered in an armor coating of shells. The shells rattle as the creatures move about the beach, like they're covered in wind chimes. The creatures walk on 4 short, stumpy legs. They look like prehistoric dinosaurs. The shell monster has a broad neck with sharp teeth and red eyes. Experts think it might have a phosphorescent glow coming from its mouth, causing it to look like a demon from hell. Each shell monster has a short tail with a lump on the end, just like a stegosaurus. Nobody has ever captured or documented a shell monster. They exist only in legend, said to slink onto the shores on moonless nights or after particularly bad storms. They have been known to sneak around houses near the coast looking for food. Some think they are real animals from the deep sea with toxic blood. Others say they're only mythical creatures from Norse folklore. Number 1. The Aliens of New England. The first reported sighting of an unidentified flying object in New England, and likely in all of America, was in 1639. Governor and co-founder of the Massachusetts Bay Colony, John Winthrop, recorded the sighting of an unidentified object over Boston. In his diary entry, Winthrop wrote that James Everell witnessed a light in the sky that stood still as a star. The light flared, became a blazing square, and moved swiftly as an arrow toward Charlestown. By the time the light vanished, James and his crew had moved 1 mile up the muddy river in their boat. Yet they had no recollection of ever paddling. It seemed to them that only a few seconds had passed. Another big sighting happened in 1808. Cynthia Everett was a schoolteacher in Camden who wrote about a strange occurrence in her diary. She wrote that the light was seen moving in from the east. She thought it was a meteor, but the way it moved changed her mind. The light lowered itself to the ground, rose a bit, went back down, and fluctuated like that in the atmosphere. Then it darted off into the heavens and was gone. There have been so many of these accounts since the early 17th century that it would take hours to explain them all. The biggest and most famous of New England's alien encounters came in 1961. Betty and Barney Hill from Portsmouth, New Hampshire, were abducted. On the night of September 19th, Betty and Barney witnessed a bright light in the sky while driving home. They stopped their car for a better look, only to have a metallic aircraft descend onto their vehicle. They heard a great buzzing sound and felt tingling sensations, then blacked out. When they regained consciousness, they were 35 miles away. It's stories like these that have people convinced there are aliens in New England. Do you believe in any of these terrifying cryptid creatures? Let me know in the comments. Thanks so much for watching, and come back soon for more amazing videos from the channel. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't yet. Bye.